Thanks so much for coming. And first off, I want to just thank the White Earth Nation for hosting us and for a wonderful meal and for a wonderful morning. It just was, I think for a lot of my colleagues here who haven't spent a lot of time in Indian country, it was enlightening but also really encouraging. And what a group of fabulous leaders you all have here on White Earth, and we're really excited to kind of watch the progress of the nation as you all move forward. My name is Heidi Heitkamp. I am the co-chair, along with Governor Chris Sununu, of the America's Rural Future Project, or Commission as we call it. Governor Sununu was really looking forward to this. Unfortunately, a family challenge took him away from us, and it's a little tough getting on airplanes these days, so we will report back to him what a wonderful visit we had, not just here, but also in the Red River Valley. So before we get started, I've asked Tony Pippa, who, along with Brent from AEI, this is his brainchild, and I think it's really important for people to understand what it is that we're doing here. So Tony, you want to just give us a rundown on, why this commission, what we hope to get accomplished?
Yeah, thank you, Chairwoman. As the former senator said, this is a partnership between the Brookings Institution and the American Enterprise Institute, two think tanks in Washington, D.C. And it's really an opportunity because it's been quite some time that federal policy has been taking a close look at and the extent to which it's effectively supporting rural and tribal and small communities across America in their community economic development and their ability to thrive. And so we're looking to the future. What is it that's going to help rural places thrive over the next 10, 20, 30 years? And what is the policy that can incentivize and support for them to be able to grab that hopeful future? Our charge is to produce a report in the fall of 2027. To do that, we felt like we needed to reflect rural realities, and to do that, we needed to come out to different places in rural and native lands so that we could understand and hear directly from people. We could see up close, we could learn. We're going to combine that with sessions by which we take advantage of the latest research and evidence, and we'll put all that together to produce our final product. But this really gives us an opportunity, I think, to understand both the challenges and the opportunities in looking toward the future in this particular place, and we'll be doing visits like this across other parts of the country as well over the next 2 years.
Thanks so much, Tony. And as much as we would love all your input, this part of our program is really restricted to a Q&A, a conversation with our panelists and the members of the commission. Again, I would ask all the commissioners, if you have a question, tip up your name placard, and then we'll have a chance to call on you as I see them come up. And so we're going to get right to our panel. This panel is titled, "What Does the Future Look Like in White Earth?" And we have three amazing panelists to help us kind of navigate that, to help hopefully answer that question, but also answer any other question that you might have. And so the first to my left is Nate Mathews, who is with us on the bus. And he is the Executive Director of the Tribal Utility Commission at White Earth Nation. Then we have Bridget Giza, that you just has got me. Bridget Giza, who is a customized education coordinator at White Earth Tribal and Community College, and already has been part of our dialogue and discussion, and we're so grateful for your time. And I know we're taking you away from a lot of students, and so we just want you to know this is an important dialogue for us. And finally, Mary Matlock, who is the business manager at B&T Foods. And so we're going to start with you, Nate. If you can just make some opening comments, try and keep them in within a reasonable period of time, and then we can get to the dialogue.
Thank you, Heidi, and thank you everyone for being here. We're grateful that you're here to listen to our wider story as you assess rural policy in the United States. A little background about the Tribal Utility Commission. I'd like to speak to you some history about why we came about and what we're doing and how we envision our future here in White Earth and in this region. The Tribal Utility Commission was created for a few reasons. One, in the heels of what's known as the Line 3 Enbridge pipeline, which was a high-pressure crude oil pipeline from Alberta to Superior, Wisconsin, which was permitted and constructed around COVID and completed in 2021. It was a very contentious issue in Minnesota, in particular northern Minnesota, as you can imagine, and with tribes, as we are as we mentioned at lunch, very protective of our environment and water in particular. And so when that construction project was routed and permitted, the tribal council at the time had a key takeaway that they wanted the next time anything substantive like that would come through or be involved in northern Minnesota, they wanted to have a say, not just to show up and comment, but to actually have some legal permitting authority behind themselves. Additionally, over the years, in tribal government and in tribal nations, there's been some frayed relationships with some of our service providers, our cooperatives, our electrical service providers. White Earth is served by three different electric service cooperatives and one investor-owned utility. We're a very big reservation, 36 square miles, and have 4 different boards, 4 different rate structures, 4 different policies for shutting off members, et cetera. And so the tribal council wanted to address that concern. And additionally, also to be in first position with creating a regulatory environment that could help strengthen the tribe's investments in renewable energy deployment. And so with those things that were occurring in 2022, the tribal council adopted a tribal utility code, a law of the tribe, which enabled it to create a tribal utility commission, which was set up at the end of 2022 and early 2023. And so it's a 5-member appointed board of tribal members that then in turn hired me to help stand up this organization. And so our foundation primarily is regulatory in its approach and its vision. Many states, of course, have public utilities commissions that are involved in the permitting of infrastructure and the siting of public infrastructure, rate management for investor-owned utilities in their states. We view ourselves as a utility having concurrent jurisdiction with the state of Minnesota Public Utilities Commission. And so that's kind of some of the basis of what our Tribal Utility Commission is and what I've been working on over the last year or so. In addition, I do support and work with the tribe on some of our projects that we have as well. We have a number of renewable energy projects that I'm assisting with. We have a $2.8 million, 1.1 megawatt solar array we're putting at our satellite casino in Bagley. It's survived the cuts to renewable energy that have been recently happening everywhere. It's through a different program through the Department of Energy, Office of Indian Energy, Clean Energy Deployment Grant we received. So we're working on that, and we're working on permitting that right now and finalizing the design for that. Additionally, in Pine Point, small village on the southeast of the reservation, we're working with a community group there that is building a 500 kW system with a 2 megawatt hour battery backup program, and it's a little resiliency hub. So we were working with that community group and supporting their conversations with that local co-op as well. Additionally to that, we're working to build relationships and strengthen those relationships. Like I mentioned, have historically been strained with some of our providers. So I view my role as to kind of engage with the general managers, the boards as best as we can with some of these providers, build those relationships up and talk about their projects. And broadband is another big component. We talked about it today. Hey, where's cell service and internet when we're driving around? It's not as good as it should be on the reservation. And so the last few years, we've been working with our internet service providers on the reservation on achieving their goals and supporting broadband deployment through the various federal and state grant programs that are there, and I can speak to those projects as well too. But we've had some success with that, and finally, another thing for you policy people, that's something of note, I think, to be aware of in Minnesota. Like we mentioned today, we have our state tribal relations training that occurs. We have a very forward-thinking governor and state that has had proactive relationship building with tribes. And one of the things that came about in the 2023 legislative session in Minnesota was the development of an advisory council on energy. It's called TACE. It's an acronym, another acronym, Tribal Advocacy Council on Energy. And it was legislation designed with the state of Minnesota's Department of Commerce that has $300,000 worth of dedicated funding for staffing. And the point of it is to try to attempt to get the 11 tribal nations together to help the state on energy policy conversations. And at that time, we were anticipating and had received substantial federal ability to deploy solar programs and solar investments through the Inflation Reduction Act, which has since been rescinded. But basically, we were working with the state on how the state could receive those funds and then allocate those equitably to the tribes. And so I work with that TACE group. I'm the chair of the legislative policy part of that entity. It's a really neat story. We're really excited about it. It's still new. We're in our first year. We meet quarterly at different reservations across the state. And a lot of the tribal energy professionals are all in that, and the sustainability folks as well. And that's another thing that I think would be of interest to you as you take a look at other models in the state of supporting energy deployment and particularly tribal energy initiatives. So,
Thank you. Thank you. Bridget?
Anine Boujou, I prepared a statement. I'm just going to read it. Anine Indigenous Cause, or Bridget Indigenous Cause, Indanoki Gawababiganikag, Gabegi Kendasa Wigamig. Chumashminawa Tangba Aki, Gawin Indo Demosi. Hello, my relatives. My name is Bridget. I work at the college as a customized ed coordinator. And my main role is to focus on expanding on our workforce development programs in collaboration with regional partners such as Mathews and the TUC. At the college, we offer an Associates of Arts degree, 3 academic certificates, 1 in Ojibwe-Moan language, core advocacy, and office administration. In my department, we offer trades programming in healthcare, childcare, engineering, energy, IT and computer applications, construction, welding, commercial driver's license, cannabis, and much more. We have partners, regional partners, educational partners, industry partners. Relationships is kind of the main driver with our programs. Our goal here is to encourage, support, and empower community members and their family to travel their chosen path to self-sufficiency and well-being, grounded in Anishinaabe culture, and to be able to contribute to the wider nation socially, politically, and economically. That last part is one of our purpose statements at the college as well. So the work that we do is a 3-tiered approach. Understanding, kind of what we discussed next door, that we need clean water, clean air, healthy lands, and community well-being, treaty rights. Understanding the challenges that a lot of our students face, transportation, housing, childcare, the cycle of addiction and homelessness and mental health. Understanding, and the last tier is understanding that Anishinaabe cultural revitalization is critical to solving all of these challenges in this community with our students. And fundamentally, the work that is the main driver Here is our relationship to the land. We also discussed this next door. And by extension, the relationship that we have to each other and what those responsibilities are. So in preparing for this panel, I sat down with our Student Senate, I sat down with our academic cabinet, and with our Anishinaabe Ethics Council, and I was giving these items here so that I have assistance in representing and doing good, doing this in the right way, in a good way, on behalf of the Anishinaabe. And so one of our elders, instructors, an AEC member, and grandmother, Beverly St. John, she has provided a statement. We have a commitment from creation to take care of us. Our role is to do everything that is in our power to help creation keep that commitment to us. Our role as staff, employees at the college, is to do everything we can to keep our commitment to our students and by extension, our community. So the mission of our tribal college is we are an institution of higher learning. We're dedicated to academic excellence and again, grounded in Anishinaabe culture, values, and traditions. And our vision is that we carry into the future the way the Anishinaabe was gifted. So in next door, we talked about the 7 generations. So this applies here in every part of the conversation. In thinking about the issues presented here, we have education, workforce development, quality of life, and leadership. It is important to remember those historical policies. And outside, I saw the gallery of the treaty. I encourage all of us to walk through that. Because those policies were created, there were systemic efforts to erase tribal identity through education, through religion, and through forced relocation. So it's important to remember that the impacts of past policies are still visible today and directly impact people's ability to live in what is called Minobema Diziwen, or the good life. And in terms of success, academic success, we need to also re-examine what those metrics are and what the definition of success might be in modern day times for Anishinaabe people. So in the interest of time, I have 1 minute. I just want to talk about the last thing. So developing indigenous economies need to be based in seasonal lifeways that encourage Minobema Diziwen for our people. That includes designing our academic programs that meet the people where they are, that meet community needs based on Anishinaabe values, and that are governed by the people. Education, workforce development, quality of life, and leadership are all intertwined. And the foundation here is the land, the relationship to the land. Our chairman talked about land back. That is part of the conversation here. And in essence, it's about the Anishinaabe having true sovereignty with their own lands. Thank you.
If you need to take a few more minutes.
I mean, I can go on and on, but I just wanted to make sure that we understand that workforce development, the big word, and education, all this stuff has implications to the relationships to the land. And I don't know the percentage, maybe the economic development director can help out, but it's also on the website. I think 80% of the reservation boundary is non-native owned. So that conversation needs to be had. I'm not an expert in that, but we do have experts in the room that can talk about that. But everything is tied to the connection to the land, including the education and the workforce programs that I help develop at the college. So,
thanks so much, Bridget.
Yeah.
We look forward to finding out the other things that you brought. That'd be great. Mary?
Yeah.
Good afternoon. I think many of you already know the story of Benson and Turner Foods. And if you haven't, I'll try and fill you in a little bit here. It was a vision that started back in 2017 with the late Reverend Doyle Turner, who was also a past chairman for the tribe, and my brother, Paul Benson. They were visiting about the economy, and we live in Mahnomen County, the poorest county in the state. We're on the reservation here, and what can we do to bring jobs and things into our community? And Doyle loved my brother's beef. He raised cattle. And Doyle said, Let's start a butcher shop. We need to do something that keeps the dollar rotating within the community. We need to feed the people some nutritious food. That was important to Doyle. And so the dream started. They did a study. The White Earth Tribe helped fund the first study that they did, and got that all done, and then had some funding lined up, and COVID hit, and the funding went away, and then COVID took Doyle from us. At that point, we felt that my brother, and along the way, I had been helping writing grants, and at that time, I worked for the White Earth Tribe in the finance department. And anyway, there was a grant that came up through the federal government, the MPPEP grant from the Department of Ag, and it was brought to my attention, you should write this grant. And with the help of a lot of people and resources and community backup from all parts, including the tribe, writing letters of recommendation, things, we got that grant. And we got funding from Northwest Minnesota Foundation, from Minnesota Rural Development, about $1.5 million anyway, what we wrote grants for and received. And we were able to make the building. I don't know if you've driven right by Waban, you can see it. It looks like a red barn. That's us. And we do keep the dollars in the community. All our products come from local farmers. We have 21 employees. I have young men that are on work-study programs that we're training to be butchers. We are empowering rural farmers to sell their own meats, because being USDA certified, they're able to sell their products. We are working with the White Earth Tribe, providing meat for the food distribution program, some of it that we can. There's some guidelines there through the federal government that make it a little bit hard, but we can do some. We also do the food shelf. Recently, the Red Lake Tribe has reached out to us, and we've been helping them with some things. There's just so many good things about creating a business in a community where you're taking care of your community. We like to say what we have going is for the community, from the community. And there's, again, so many things I could tell you. But we also have a retail store, and we take EBT, and we really promote and are excited every time someone comes in there and buys a meat bundle. And we got Doyle on the wall, and he's smiling over there too, because we're feeding the people. That was the goal. But it's a business that is not only for our community, but it's something that can be replicated in other communities across the United States if they ever want to see how this happens. Knowingly, there is no other meat processing business that is totally from the community. We bring no box meat, anything. Everything comes from the community. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Questions? Okay, thank you. Keith, you want to start us out?
Yeah, thanks for three really informative presentations. A question is for you.
Can I just, for a minute, I think that they probably don't know who we are.
Okay.
So if you ask a question, if you could just introduce yourself, Keith.
Yeah, of course.
Tell them how, you're from California.
I'm from California. Yeah, we're both from California. Phil and I are
by
both
way of
yes,
West Virginia.
That's right. I grew up in West Virginia. I live in California. My name's Keith Humphreys.
He's got to establish his street cred.
That's
I grew
right.
up in West
That's
Virginia.
Right. Yeah, and I have to say, there was one spot in my town called Mile Ground because it was the only flat spot, and we had never seen flatness like that. And you got us whipped on flatness. I mean, you got to say this. It's pretty impressive flatness. Yeah, I'm a professor at Stanford University. And my question is for you, Bridget, about education. So you're one of several remarkable people we met today who went to university off the reservation, then came back to contribute. And since you work with young people in education, I'm wondering, what is it that you think goes into the decision of a young person to get their education somewhere else or not, and what goes into the decision to return or not?
Yeah. I wish there were. Well, I'm originally from the Southwest. So I've been up here, let's see, for a good solid decade, but I did leave home. But I haven't gone back. So kind of put me on the spot here. I'm still on my journey, but I think what I will answer with that question is in my conversations with a lot of our students who are on average about my age, you know, they're about 35 or so, a little older, a little younger. A lot of them are parents or they're caretakers of their elders, or they live in multifamily housing. They have constraints and barriers to achieving their dreams, going off res or going to a four-year college. And so folks that have left, their goal is always to return home. Sometimes they can't. Sometimes they can't. For various reasons, they end up living in the cities and, you know, make money. And then but they have relatives up here, and we're in a situation where we have, I don't know what we could call them, economic refugees. And I would say I kind of fit that demographic because I can't go back home yet. But the little contributions that I'm able to offer to through my role is to work with our partners and be able to slowly create those opportunities for, especially for those that are high school students that have dreams and aspirations, and sure, they can go to BSU or U of M system, but we have a little gem of a college here too that we're building. Just in the last 3 or 4 years that I've been there, we have made efforts to improve on our trades programming through various, that's been my role, but also on the academic side, expand from an AA degree to an AS degree. And we have excellent faculty on campus that are working towards the sciences so that we have a lab now. That's kind of a big deal because, we could do a little bit of research now. And then we have Extension, who focus a lot on that food sovereignty piece, but also on that traditional ecological knowledge piece. So this college, I think in my role, I'm hoping that I create the programs that I wish I had growing up. And I'm hoping that I can connect the dots, per se, enough so that our next generation wants to stay home and sees the value in that. We talked about entrepreneurship earlier, in using the resources, the tools, education that they get from our little college here to be able to build ground themselves here and build their roots and be able to sustain their families and be of service to their community all at the same time. So that's a big challenge, So I haven't yet achieved my I guess I'm still on my journey, to answer your question, and I have not been able to do so yet, but that's okay. I'm still kind of, young, so so yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but we're definitely working on it at the tribal college, and we're working with other tribal colleges as well to help build those networks so that Anishinaabe folks as a whole within this region are able to live the life that they want to live, that they choose to live. So I'll pause there.
Yante?
Thank you. Jante Suripto, I'm the CEO of Save the Children. I was brought up in the Netherlands, so I feel right at home in this place. It's very flat. Mary, I wanted to ask you, what an amazing story about your business. So where would you like to see the business over the next 5 years? Is the ambition to grow? Is it, what would be the impediment, or what would help you the most?
Yeah. I'd like to get out of debt. Sorry. No. We do have some dreams, and one of the things is our bison. We do process bison and slaughter bison too for the White Earth Tribe, and I see that growing. That is a conversation we've been having that's pretty exciting. I'd also like to be able to see us working more with the tribal college, and we've had some conversations to get a certified butcher program going. It's a trade that is a lost trade, and it's something that people can make a living wage from doing so. So that's important. And then just being there for the community. We also have a part of our building that is going to be a community kitchen at some point. We find some more funding for that to finish that room, the community room, because we want to be able to have people be able to come in and make jams and jellies. Then they can sell them if it's in a certified kitchen. So yeah, just be there for the community is our biggest goal, and having a vision with them in mind.
And what would help the most, other than patient capital?
Probably those collaborations. It's really not something we can do ourselves. Just staying connected, collaborating with different programs, and having the support of other programs. Yeah.
Tony?
So I have a couple of questions. For Nate, you talked about the concurrent jurisdiction with the state utility commission. How do they experience that? It would be just good to hear a little bit about that. And then you were also talking about cell service and broadband. It'd be great to hear a little bit more detail about how much penetration you do have and what you see as the role of potentially federal resources or state resources. What would be the role of those kinds of resources to help you get to where you want to go with connectivity? And then Mary, I would love to hear more, like you used federal funding actually to help launch. I would love to hear more details about what the program was and what went into actually being able to be successful with that. What was the application process even like? What did it entail, and what did it mean to you to be able to get that funding?
Okay. You can start.
Okay, I'll go first. The first question is concurrent jurisdiction with the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission. How's that working, and how do we see that working with them? Great question. So we meet yearly with the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission. Each of the divisions of the state also have tribal liaisons, and so I have a very good relationship with the Public Utility Commission's tribal liaison. We talk about the dockets that get filed and how, if they're applicable for various tribes to comment on or participate in. Additionally, Tony, they took the extraordinary step, I think, to recommend myself and other members of our Tribal Utility Commission to seek the same type of training that they're receiving through NARUC, the National Association of Utility Regulator Commissioners. So our tribe joined that. I think we're the first tribe to join NARUC. It's part of their charter, and when we called them, they were excited, like, yeah, it's actually in our charter, tribal governments. And so they have been very supportive of us. And some tribal governments and public utilities commissions in the states have a really tough relationship sometimes. We don't. When it comes to specific permitting, there is state law in Minnesota for certain sizing of solar arrays and things that are under state law that require the state to approve them if they're above a certain voltage kV. We have taken the position with them that we would like to also cite those. And so in our governing documents as a TUC, and we've shared this with the PUC, we've given them our bylaws, our confidentiality documents, our all of our basically governing documents, and the disclosures that we request our members to have for confidential information. And so we have not had a big permit request to the state on a reservation that would require a joint approval, but that is what we've messaged to them, and they've agreed that they would honor that and respect that. It is, it's good to know we have that relationship and that dialogue. So that's one of the best way I can answer that question. Broadband and cell service, what's the role? How can the feds help with that? Support BEAD deployment dollars, if you can. Those matter to us. The state of Minnesota receives those dollars, as you know, and then competitively bids those. We have a process with our Office of Broadband in Minnesota, a protocol that before those grants are awarded on a tribal reservation, they make sure that tribes do sign off, that they approve that application. We really appreciate that the state's taken that proactive approach. The last thing they want to do is award a grant and then the tribe rises up against it and then the project is in jeopardy. So knowing that when these cycles come through, I like to engage with our broadband providers, and there's 3 primary on the reservation. We have Garden Valley Cooperative, they're a telephone company, they do broadband, fiber internet, Arvig Communications, and then also Quest. And so we work with them on the BEAD, those BEAD applications, but also the state of Minnesota has a very good program called the Border to Border program. It was created in 2014. The state of Minnesota issued a goal that by 2026, all of the state will have 100 meg down, 20 meg up. And they have a competitive grant process for those dollars. And again, we work with the broadband providers that seek those dollars and how they can put those projects together. And we have a good project with one of our providers, Garden Valley Cooperative. And so that's a big project for northern Monoman County, 115 square miles, nearly 300 connections. It's really proud to work with them on that project. And so supporting state policy to also supplement the BEAD dollars that the feds have are things that I would really strongly recommend, that if you guys have influence out there to make sure that, it's not just Uncle Sam, but the states can respond to and set up, because Uncle Sam's not as reliable these days.
Yeah, I just want to point out, have there been conflicts between the position you've taken as a Public Utilities Commission and Minnesota?
I would say a conflict, but there are a couple major dockets that are going on right now at the Public Utilities Commission.
Where there might be.
Yes, well, there's a pipeline that's going through Pipestone right now called Magellan Pipeline. And a lot of our tribes are coming together to say, please reroute that. That's a sacred territory. Additionally, there is a dispute with one of our tribes down in southern Minnesota with its service cooperative. And we're doing our best to support tribal energy sovereignty and the tribe's choice of service provider. And so we're not conflicting with the PUC, but we're engaging with them. But if they don't like, we'll see where they go.
I mean, you told the story about, we're cooperating, we're collaborating, and it's easy to do that as long as you're on the same side of things. It's easy to do that when there isn't, jurisdictional clashes between the positions. And so certainly something to watch, but if I can just interject that having those discussions before the pipe is in the ground is really valuable. So, it's really important for everybody to understand how important it is to engage at that level and the regulatory level. Mary, you want to, I think it's been a while, so you want to repeat your question?
Yeah, just a few more details about what program you got the money from and what entailed getting that money. Like how difficult, easy, what would you suggest about it?
Okay. If any of you have ever written a grant, you there's a process. You need to start out with conversations with the people that are going to be involved in it. There's a bit of education that you need to do. My brother actually went and worked here at the casino in the kitchens to learn some things, and he also worked at a grocery store, Detroit Lakes, as a butcher, to learn that too before all of this started. And then you get those people together and ask for letters of support. And you want to start that from the beginning, because you don't want to be at the end of writing a grant and not having your letters of support. So you need to get your team together, and that's so important. You need to complete a feasibility study to make sure that the business that you're going to be building is going to be sustainable. And you have to put together a business plan. Those are all pieces. And then you need to take all of that information along with your vision and write a story, not a grant. You have to write a story that people will read that grant and go, oh, this, I get this. I want to be part of this vision. And then you put about 200 hours into it. This was a big grant. It was the biggest grant I had ever written. It was through the USDA Department of Agriculture. MPPEP, Meat, Poultry, Production, Economic Development Program. I don't remember the whole acronym. But it was, it was a big grant, and it took a lot of study, and I learned a lot writing the grant. And I had different sections of the grant that I pulled in different people to help me do it.
Do you remember how many pages it ended up being?
It was this thick.
Oh, wow.
With the backup. I'm not kidding. But we did get 900 and, almost $1 million. So, 970,000. And that was just one of the grants. And then you need to look locally for funding too. I wrote that, Northwest Minnesota Foundation. They look at economic development in this area, and so they gave us some funding, and there was no match with that. So that was good. And then the state of Minnesota Rural Development had some agri-value grants that I wrote too. So you need to look at all different sources for your funding. And it paid off, because once we had our story and received the funding, and then there was an article in the paper, then Bremer Bank, a bank, came to us with new market dollars and said, I've got so many, or 3.4 million that you can get from us at 2.9%. So it just, the dominoes, when things are supposed to work out, the dominoes start flowing in the right direction.
That's really helpful.
Mary,
Yeah.
that's incredible.
It's really helpful to
I
hear that
love,
full story.
I love the tell the story, because I think people think, oh, you got to answer these questions, but you got to tell the story first, and
Yeah.
that's just a lovely part of what you said. Yeah, Trent?
Yeah, Bridget, some questions about the tribal college. And so I'm a cattle rancher in Texas, rural West Texas, went to Oklahoma State University, a land-grant university. I'm on the board of National 4-H Council, which is, sits atop kind of extension. But I've never really quite understood where the 1994s, right? So we have the 1862 land-grant universities, the 1890s, which are historically black, and the 1994, which are the tribal colleges that are land-grant universities. Can you explain to me, and is that funding coming directly through USDA and NIFA? What are the funding mechanisms, particularly from federal, from state? So I guess that's kind of the first question, is on kind of funding. And then two, how do you work with University of Minnesota here? And then third, how do you work with the other tribal colleges? My understanding there's 5 in the state, maybe. So how do you coordinate with them? And the last question would be around extension and how extension kind of works from your tribal college standpoint and how it collaborates with, again, all those other institutions.
So those are a lot of questions.
Yes.
So we do have an extension director. She was not able to be here. She would be your main point of contact to be able to answer all of those questions, exactly the mechanism. But what I do know is that some of the funding does come from NIFA, USDA. They have strong relationships. Extension has strong relationships with U of M Extension. There's been some strong partnerships there. And other organizations across the reservation as well. They're currently working on a kind of a reservation-wide co-op. So they've got a lot of programs. I think I did talk to them a little bit, but so to be able to thoroughly answer a question, I need to connect you with our director. But I know that they also just secured a large equity grant that focuses on language education as their first kind of step in their larger project.
And where did that come
So-
from?
Yeah, where did that come from? Do you remember, Laura? Was it?
That's okay.
Yeah, I'd have to get back to you. I'm more like the trades part, but I mean that's another thing is with the funding that Extension is securing, and then our funding at Customized Ed and Academics, we're definitely always trying to find some synergies between our departments.
Sure.
That's a work in progress. Sometimes it is grant dependent. Sometimes it is our internal capacity. But that's something that we've been actively working on, is trying to leverage the funding that we currently have with our overarching strategic plan at the college. So, but yeah, to the best of my ability, yes to all those questions. But if, like I said, I will connect you with our director and she'll be able to really get into those details. Because she's been there for like 10 years or
We're
something.
going to go to the lightning round now, Brent. So,
Well, everybody else got to ask like 4 questions.
yeah, I know, it's not my fault.
But I am going to ask just one kind of biggish question that everybody can respond to. I have a real concern for all kinds of isolated populations, including rural populations, that we're heading into an era of just incredible transformation. We can't afford the lag. And I'm thinking, back in 1992, it was the information superhighway, and then we had, and still have, broadband going on, right? Massive investments. Everybody's still talking about broadband. All the discussion about digital natives, and now we're layering artificial intelligence on top of all of that, which is becoming agentic AI, that is AI that can operate without immediate human supervision, which seems to be a marker on our way to the singularity, like a kind of AI that we're not going to be able to, well, it will fill the universe, and we're going to be trying to keep up with it. So here's my question: what's happening to the tribe with respect to this massive transformation that's going on? What do you unless the news is extremely good and you're completely on top of it, what's your thinking about how we can help tribal communities before they get left behind? I always tell people, like, for everybody, yesterday was the best day to learn about AI. If you didn't do it yesterday, do it today. Once this gets moving, and it is moving, and you get behind, the rate of change is going like that, and it's really hard to catch up. So and it will drive opportunity for everybody. So I'm lay it all out there, what's happening with the tribes and artificial intelligence.
I've been left behind.
You could have saved a lot of time on your grant proposal.
Nate, I think you're up. I'm going to call on Nate.
Yeah, Nate, go ahead.
Yep.
Well, AI is a leveler. I think it can be, and I think the tribe needs to factor what parts of AI make sense for us to pay attention to. Chairman talked about getting the app going. I mean, some parts of what we're doing are 20 years old as far as how we communicate with our people, but how we then can use AI, for instance, with our Buffalo operation. That's new. It's new for us, but there is a lot of technology that can be built into that to ensure that that is state of the art, that we're using it to help ourselves and level and being able to compete across the country. For the food sovereignty question, economic development as well. A lot of tribes can be nimble. We have our own ability to regulate. We have our own ability to fund with ancillary revenues, whether that's casino or cannabis, to invest. And I think that is a strategic conversation for the tribal council as they look at competing, and we are competing. We're the leader in competing right now in cannabis right now, for example. How can we use that to strengthen the industry as a whole in addition to our business operations? I'm a babe in the woods when it comes to AI, Phil. You know, I mean, I don't know a lot of the ins and outs about it, but I just know that it is a leveler, and it can allow us to compete, you know, if we pay attention to it, engage, and we just need to find the right way to do that with our economic development.
And in the interest of time, I'm going to just kind of maybe do a shortcut. I'd have you talk otherwise, Phil, but Phil had this great idea, and he's working on a great idea that would allow AI to, we know that the Medicaid application system is going to be very rigorous, and it's part of the reason why we're going to see a retraction in AI, or in utilization. Phil is working on a program that would 95%, right, Phil? Yeah. 95% fill in the application, and then you could use labor. And so there's an area that I think tribal members on applications and maybe even grants, AI could be critically important. And so I think, you're thinking about survival and clean water and good food, but I think you raised an important part, Brett, but we've got the expert here.
I'll just add one thing. So earlier, the chairman was talking about how the kids to get the Microsoft certification and then they leave, right? They work in Fargo in the city. One effort that's been successful is the other way around. It's like, are there people from Silicon Valley, whatnot, that can come and be helpful as a fellow, for a White Earth reservation for 6 to 12 months at a time? And that's something that I'm quietly working on as well. So happy to stay in touch with. It's like, how do we bring people with that expertise, but without the localized knowledge that you guys have, and together do some good stuff, together.
I think there's a lot of resources. Tom, I'm going to give you the last question. Sorry.
This one will be easier, narrower. I was intrigued by your comments. You have 3 co-ops supplying power and 1 publicly traded utility, and the whole power thing. One of the issues for the tribe, just like many other tribes all over the country, is you're basically a taker of stuff that you don't produce yourself, right? Power, internet, telephony, all that stuff. Do you get treated equitably? I.e., are those co-ops charging you a fair price per kilowatt hour and so forth relative to each other, so that if I went off the reservation, I'd find that everyone was getting charged the same thing? Because for the ability of people to have a quality of life here is partly a function of not getting priced into oblivion for everything, because people are taking advantage of the fact that you're not producing anything yourself.
Great question. If you look at the rate structures of the 4 electric providers, it's going to be the same for their customer base if you're off or on the reservation. they all have different rate classifications based on the sizing of the meters or the demand of the facilities. Now, I will say that when you're in rural Minnesota and particularly here, our cost for electricity is higher because we have so much less density per customer. A number of reasons, and as opposed to being in a city where you got 15 people on a city block, customers, you got 15 every mile. And so your base fees are heavier. So generally speaking, electricity is more expensive in rural Minnesota.
Bridget, just to close this out, we had a wonderful conversation with you in the other room, but you had a wonderful quote. And this is the official record of our work here. And so if you would just close out with some final thoughts and share what you shared in the other room. I think that's really a significant perspective that we need on the record.
Yeah. So I said a few things, but I'll start with remember that the work that we're doing here, me at the college, with the TUC, food systems, and other things, is we are building or rebuilding the nation. White Earth just completed their climate action plan. There are things in there like transportation, buildings, energy, waste management, aquatic health, wild rice, food sovereignty, green space, trees, health, safety, and the climate economy. All things that we've touched on today and next door. And the one thing that kind of resonated with me in the past couple of days as I've been pondering a lot of this stuff and educating myself is a quote by Dr. Lila June, and she says, in order to build solidarity with Indigenous peoples, we must come into this conversation is, how can I be of help? How can I be of assistance, if at all? So in our conversations with, high-level conversations, or even what we're having here, how can we remember our responsibilities to the original peoples of this land as we move towards advancements such as AI? There are still issues, as we discussed with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, basic needs that people are still navigating. Our students are still navigating. Our community members are still navigating. If we want to use AI responsibly, we need to make sure that the most vulnerable people in these communities, in rural spaces, in rural America, Indigenous communities, those are our priority here. So if we can use advanced technology, AI, for the common good, and that the definition of that is, we have to continue having these conversations, then I believe we're going to be okay as a society. But if we continue doing business as usual and forgetting about marginalized communities and forgetting about our treaty responsibilities, like I said, read the gallery out here, we're going to be in trouble, and much more than where we're at. And so, that's a huge understatement. So again, we have a nation to build. We have responsibilities to the people and to the original peoples and the lands of this country. And how can we be of help, if at all?
If at all. Thank you so much. Thank you for your excellent presentations. I'm going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with our second panel.